Abdul Gayoom is 81 years old. This will be his last trip to see the island where he has lived most of his life.
I was very happy when I was living in this island. I built a house here. I got children and live very happily. But I was forced to leave because of the tsunami.
In 2004, a tsunami swept across the Maldives in the Indian Ocean and almost completely destroyed his island, Kandoladu.
I was never this scared. I am sure that the waves reached up to 20 feet, then came crashing down.
The Maldives, located off the Indian coast, was devastated. Kandoladu, roughly the size of a football stadium, was once a thriving fishing village of nearly 4,000 people. Now it's a ghost town, with most buildings in ruins and groundwater contaminated by seawater. No one could live here. Even though the tsunami was a natural disaster, it served as a wake-up call to the fragility of the Maldives. It was a grim preview of what could happen to the entire country if global warming remains uncurbed and sea levels continue to rise. Dr. Shiham Adam, Director General of Marine Research Center in the Maldives.
You are flying over the, in the sky, and you see the Maldives. You just see them as tiny specks of, tiny leaves, if you will, like floating. And they are like little, leaves floating in a pool of water. And if you push that water, the water will go over it.
This archipelago of nearly 1,200 islands rose millions of years ago from the ocean after an eruption of volcanoes. Since then, they have subsided, leaving only their coral reefs.
The very physical basis of Maldives is coral sand, which is being produced by the breaking of corals and wave energy and wind energy, washing these sands onto the beaches, accreting the islands.
Their sandy white beaches, crystal blue lagoons, along with a rich collection of exotic live corals and tropical fish, have drawn people from around the world, bringing in billions of tourist dollars. But with an average height of just about 6 feet, these islands are in increasing danger of disappearing into the rising waters. Over the last 6 years, nearly half of the 200 populated islands have reported storm surges, some as high as 15 feet, flooding houses and causing severe coastal erosion.
What you can see over here is erosion in action now. The sand from nearby the trees is started moving out. Whole beach is eroded from there. The roots will die, and slowly the palm trees will also will fall down.
Ahmed Nihad, island chief of Hura, says his island, about 2,700 feet long and 1,200 feet wide and home to about 2,000 people, is shrinking. It has lost 70 to 80 feet of land in the last 4 to 5 months.
There's a fear within like one or 2 years we will hit the water. Some of the houses will hit the beach and the water. So I believe the sea level is rising.
Well, climate change, the debate is ongoing.
Dr. Ahmed Shaikh, an environmental expert.
I think our view is that, that's fair enough. You can debate on it, but we can't sit around here till one of you wins. Not until one of you says, I told you so.
The government started building a massive seawall made of concrete tetrapods to surround Mali, the capital, in 1987. It was an expensive project, costing some $60 million and taking 14 years to build. Mali, an island so small one can walk around it in half an hour, is home to 110,000 people, nearly 1/3 of the country's population. The rest is dispersed over 200 islands, many of them tiny, home to only a few hundred people. Like Gayoom, they're mostly fishermen. Fishing is their main economic activity. They use the traditional technique of pole and line to catch fish one by one. Protecting these small and vulnerable fishing communities scattered over hundreds of square miles of ocean is an almost impossible task for the Maldives.
We have tried to relocate people to bigger islands, relatively safer islands.
Dr. Mohammed Wahid Hassan, the Vice President of the Maldives.
But this is very difficult because the people have to leave their homes, their traditional burial grounds, and move to a new area.
I did not want to move because that was the island where I was born.
But Gayoom says the tsunami left him with no option.
When I go to Kandoludu now, I know that we cannot live there anymore.
In 2005, the Maldives launched an experiment to relocate Kandoladu's populations to an uninhabited island, Duvafaru. Protected by a large reef, it's about 10 times the size of Kandoladu. The government has built up the island from scratch with the assistance of the International Federation of the Red Cross. Building a new community took 3 years and cost some $35 million. After living in temporary shelters on other islands, Gayoom and his family are happy now that they have their own house with modern amenities.
This is the refrigerator in my kitchen. The rooms are bigger and more spacious. I was thrilled. I was so happy to be reunited with my family, my friends and familiar people.
But like all other islands, Duvafaru is vulnerable to erosion. Ismail Ahmed, island chief of Duvafaru.
During the last southwest monsoon, the waves came here and flooded some houses. Previously, the beach here was 40 feet wide. Now, the beach is just 3 to 4 feet, almost reaching the houses.
A strong seawall is needed to stop the erosion.
The government is planning to do the seawall there as well. It's a priority for the government to protect that island because we've put so much already into it.
Following the successful resettlement of an entire community, the government is now exploring the strategy of relocating and consolidating populations on more resilient islands as part of its climate change mitigation measures.
You know, the problem is developing a larger island also means putting more investments in infrastructure. They're all expensive. But we are now exploring ways of doing this through public-private partnerships. We are hoping that over the next year or two, we will have made very good progress on this.
But no island in the Maldives can escape the effects of global warming.
Obviously, we are not packing our suitcases to leave. We have a very long history. We want to stay on these islands and live here as long as we can.
People in the Maldives have survived 3,000 years on these low-lying islands. Their willingness to move among islands seems to be their key to survival.
I prefer Duvafaru. I will not go back. I will stay here. I hope that the disaster that struck Kandoludu doesn't happen to Duvafaru.
Relocating people to bigger and safer islands, while expensive, is a far better option than having to abandon one's homeland and culture and live in another country. But unless global warming is brought under control and sea levels stop rising, some scientists predict that the Maldives may disappear under the sea.